Hello, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the SJUK Leaders in Security podcast. I'm your host, James Humphreys, editor of Security Journal UK, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Guy Rushworth, Regional Sales Team Leader UK and Ireland at Genetec, to discuss the findings from the fifth edition of the Genetec State of Physical Security report. Welcome, Guy. How are you today?
I'm great, James. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Before we kick things off, could you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and your background in the security industry?
Yeah, certainly, James. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us. My name's Guy Rushworth. I'm team lead for the Channel Account Executive team here at Genetec UK and Ireland, and we look after our accredited base of specialist integrator partners. I've been in the security industry myself for almost 20 years now, working on both sides of the fence, both as an integrator and in manufacturing as well. And this is my sixth year at Genetec.
That's great. And today, obviously, we're going to be discussing the fifth edition of the Genetec State of Physical Security report. I believe it's become a go-to resource for insights into global trends. However, for those that aren't aware, can we start with the basics? So, why does Genetec produce this report? And can you tell me a little bit more about who you survey and what it aims to cover?
Yeah, it's a report that we've been doing for, as you say, for almost 5 years now. Well, this is our fifth edition, so yeah, 5 years. And we do it for a number of reasons, James. Ultimately, it gives us a heading and a temperature for trends, particularly challenges, things that as a global software manufacturer, we need to look out for. But it provides us powerful insights into how the role of physical security evolves year on year. And we canvass end users, integrators, and consultants alike. And in the 5 years that we've done the report, numerous trends have come into the fore and become a reality. So it becomes quite a prophetic report, not just for us, but for our partners and for our end users as well. So the last couple of years, we've been able to detect an uptick in demand for cyber resilience, the growing role of IT around the table, where traditionally we would have found security management, cloud, and that kind of thing. So ultimately, it's a report for everybody, and we're really excited to be launching this fifth edition.
And you touched on it a little bit there. I think it's clear that this report involves obviously a huge amount of effort to gather data and provide actionable insights. With around 5,700 qualified responses worldwide, you must have uncovered some interesting trends. Can you share some of the key global findings? And were there any insights that stood out compared to previous years?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Now, I'm not going to give too much here because we actually want people to download their own copy of this. But we're going to give you some teasers, not spoilers, should we say? And because the report is very extensive, but it does highlight a number of trends, particularly. This one has become more prevalent this year, which is the economic impact on businesses, not just in the UK and Ireland, but globally. And there's a number of reasons for that. We look back at 2024 as the election year, not just here in the UK and the US, but we also saw major elections in 64 countries, including India, Taiwan, and South Korea as well. So half the world's population went to vote this year, which is a stat I've just learned. So that's also added to this economic unrest. Recruiting challenges persist, particularly for our end users and our integrating partners, not just in sales, but engineering as well. So that's become a huge challenge. Cyber resilience remains a top priority for a number of our cohort. And also cloud adoption, again, not a new trend. We've seen this probably for the last 4 years now, but we're really seeing that come into the fore now. So one of the biggest challenges that we're hearing about around the discussion table that we host every day, but also we're seeing it in the report now, is customers, end users now trying to manage outdated and legacy security infrastructure. This is costly, and it also drives down security resilience as well. So there's a number of highlights that we noticed in the report this year.
Yeah, there's some really interesting trends in there, especially with the elections. And while these global findings are obviously extremely important, one of the highlights of the report is how it examines regional differences. The UK and Ireland in particular showed some interesting trends around, as you mentioned, cloud adoption and hybrid architectures. Could you break down what makes this region unique compared to the rest of Europe?
Well, we're England, we're the UK, right? So it's we are different. We go about things in a different way. Historically, when we look at technology adoption in the UK, we're not the earliest adopter. We tend to sit back and just wait and see what everyone else does. This isn't just we don't just find this in the security industry, of course. We've seen it with the uptick in EV vehicles, which we now see fairly prevalently on the roads now, but took us a while to get into that. Took us a while, an age, in fact, we still don't have it fully, 5G networks. But from us specifically, one of the major trends that we saw, bringing it back to the report, is that and specific to the UK and Ireland, is that we found from our responses that within the next 5 years, 58% of UK and Irish respondents said hybrid cloud was their target physical security architecture. Now, when we compare that to the European average, which was only 35%, that's significant. So that's telling us a number of things here in the UK and Ireland, particularly that actually we're probably not the last to the party when it comes to adoption of new technology. Cloud is part of everyday conversation at Genetec. But now we're actually seeing people making good on that, and we're seeing them adopt it. And we've got a number of large cloud and hybrid and SaaS installations, particularly in the UK and Ireland.
And with some of the statistics you mentioned there, you could even argue that the UK and Ireland are almost leading the way when it comes to hybrid cloud adoption. But the report also indicates that 2025 is shaping up to be a pivotal year for access control projects in this region. Why do you think access control has become such a priority? And what kinds of projects are organisations planning?
Wow, another great question. So for us here in the UK and Ireland, we saw huge growth. I'm not going to go into the percentile of it, but we saw huge growth for access control here. We've just been independently voted global number 2 for access control as well. Earlier on the year, we were global number 1 for VMS, retaining that position for a couple of years now. Access control is part of our offering. It's part of the conversation, the everyday conversation. And I think we saw 80% of users selected said they would focus on access control projects in 2025 and in the UK and Ireland. The average across Europe, again, was 48%. So we're almost 50% more, but we are significantly ahead of the curve when it comes to our European colleagues. So access control this year has been huge for us. We grew it significantly in the UK with this product set. And I think there's a number of reasons for this uptake. We're still dealing with the fallout post-COVID. And the fallout of that is people coming back to work. We see it in London particularly. I won't give you the name that people give these individuals, but they're coming in on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, essentially to work, and Monday and Friday they're working from home. So we're still seeing that, whereas pre-COVID we didn't. So businesses want to understand how their premises are being used, and really one of the best measures for that, outside of decent analytics with your CCTV, is access control. Combined with that, we're seeing the increased prevalence of mobile credentials as well. Mobile credentials have been around for a long time, but using your mobile device as your access control credential has numerous benefits. And particularly when we look at the advent of smart buildings now and third-party smart app manufacturers, such as smart spaces, we're seeing that not only can I book a room in my building, I can book a restaurant, I can book a gym, I can understand data coming from the London Underground about the frequency of my travel home with the tubes in the underground, buses, that kind of thing. But also I can use this for my access control. So access control is very much going to be on the agenda, as we're told by our cohort in 2025.
Yeah, there was some really interesting points in there, Guy, about COVID and how that maybe changed the landscape. It seems access control projects are clearly at the top of people's minds at the moment, but another trend we're seeing is the unification of video surveillance and access control. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's driving this growth and focus on unification, and a little bit about what the benefits organisations are seeing by doing this?
Okay, another great question. So unification is a word that we use almost ad nauseum at Genetec, and I think our partners and end users would agree. But they've certainly heard it enough now to understand what it means and the impact, the positive impact a unified system can have on their business. At Genetec, we fundamentally believe there is a difference between a foot in the past, an integrated and siloed system architecture versus a unified one. In a unified world, we are connecting seemingly disparate systems, access control, CCTV, IoT devices. We're taking data from lots of different sources in order to squirt out meaningful data and automating a number of processes as well, driving up efficiency and driving down cost. Unification is our bread and butter, and we're noticing a number of our competitors now, perhaps wrongly, using that phrase, because for us, we're an open and unified security management platform. There's going to come a time when I believe we will remove the word security and will become an open and unified data management platform, because don't forget, we're a software manufacturer. So we aim to deploy both access control and CCTV. But sometimes it's not always in the stars with customers. Sometimes they're tethered to perhaps a proprietary access control system. But when they get used to having the same look and feel, UIX, a user interface experience, as we call it, and the ability to be able to report on all these connected devices and have an audit trail and to create causal and effect, then that starts becoming very appealing to customers. Not only are we driving up efficiency because we're only having to train operators on one system, but there are numerous other benefits as well to that, not least driving up cyber and security resilience, which, of course, ultimately is what this is all about.
And unification is a very powerful concept, and I know it's something Genetec has been advocating for its solutions. Let's talk about some of your key developments from the past year. How do launches like your Security Centre, software as a service, and your collaboration with Axis Communication fit into the trends we've discussed so far?
Well, these are all great questions. Thank you, James. So the collaboration with, I'll start with the Axis collaboration. We've been collaborating with Axis now, and I'll probably get shot for this. I don't know how many years we've been working with Axis, but when I joined Genetec, certainly 6 years ago, you would have been forgiven for thinking we were one of the same company. We are in lockstep, that phrase that the politicians use quite frequently now. Certainly with the technology, and not just Axis, but we find partnerships with Bosch, with iPro, with Hanwha, with HID, and with STID. These are powerful allied technological partnerships that we uphold very, very dear to our hearts. Last year, we launched Genetec, powered by Genetec, access control system to great fanfare and aplomb. And that was really an opportunity for us to make good on the years of partnership that we've had and develop our own combined technology system. SC SaaS, so Security Centre SaaS, we launched in the earlier part of this year to great fanfare. We've been playing in the cloud and the SaaS space for over 14 years now. But it wasn't as unified as we wanted it to be. We had our Omnicast video platform was in what we called Stratocast, which was our cloud solution. And then our Synergist access control platform was SaaS. And they could kind of work together, but it was quite clunky and it wasn't as unified as we wanted it to be. So we developed SC SaaS. And this gives us a foundation for going deeper with unification in the future, and to be able to provide a continuum, as we call it, in terms of system upgrades, moving away from the big bang annual single software drops that we typically see, and we certainly have done, we still do with our on-prem solution. And now we're able to drip feed new Christmas presents to our customers and our end users as often as our little team of elves can work. So this year, SC SaaS was a big bang for us. We also celebrated our 100th patent this year too, which got our dev community very excited. That was seismic news for us. We have a number of PhDs and absolutely dedicated programmers and developers within the Genetec wrecking crew, as we call ourselves, the collective noun for a bunch of Genetec people. And yeah, the 100th patent was significant news. Earlier on this year, I think it was January, maybe February, we were also awarded CAPS approval. For those of you who don't know, CAPS is the cyber assurance of physical security systems. And we were approved on Genetec Security Center for both Synergist access control and Omnicast CCTV as well. And that's an important distinction because a number of other of our manufacturing competitors out there have singular accreditation on either access control or video. We've got it on the platform with GSC, Genetec Security Center. We also launched very recently, 2 months ago now, Operations Center, which is a powerful and agnostic subscription-based work management product. Ultimately, James, it's designed to improve productivity, communication, and collaboration across teams. Whether you're launching a project at corporate level or organizing maintenance crews, dispatching patrol teams, or supervising tasks, you can track and report on all of this. But it is, and I stress, an agnostic product. You don't need Genetec Security Center for this. End users can adopt Operations Center today to help them manage their teams. And then finally, here in the UK, we're pleased to announce this month the opening of our third floor in our London HQ in Basinghall Street. And we're very proud to be able to do that. And the reason we've opened a third floor is it just got too small. The space was too small on the fourth and the fifth floor. So we're sort of outstripping demand at the moment. So yeah, we needed more space to be able to host our partners and our customers. So it's been a busy year.
Yeah, no, undoubtedly 2024 has been an exciting year for Genetec with these developments clearly aligning with industry trends. I'd like to look ahead now. Could you share any insights into what Genetec is planning for the next 12 months? What's next on the horizon for both the company and the physical security industry?
Okay. Well, I can't really speak at the moment about what's coming down the pipe, but suffice it to say, lots of exciting things. So do watch this space and your Genetec channels. In terms of trends, things that I believe, and my colleagues would share these sentiments as well, we're going to start seeing in next year's report. AI is huge. It's also doesn't exist, we believe, at Genetec. And this is for another podcast. We don't believe in AI, artificial intelligence. What we believe in is intelligent automation. And there is a marked difference between the two. And I think there's a massive education piece that we need to have with our end users, with the consumers of AI. AI suggests that there is a sentience there of these systems, that it has free will. But when you actually look at AI and the amazing things that it can do, ultimately they are siloed, and in of themselves, they are separate programs from each other. They're not connected in any sort of webbed way that marketing people would have you believe. So IA, intelligent automation. So it's really important for us when we speak to customers to ask them, well, what do you want AI to do? Typically, they want analytics. They want an invisible perimeter protection, or they want to understand people flow and counting of individuals coming into the building, that kind of thing. So the second thing that we see a lot at Genetec, James, is IoT, Internet of Things, and the prevalence of being able to connect many different data sets and many different devices and sensors now, sometimes nothing to do with security. And this has been huge for us for a number of years, but we're now starting to see the uptake and the scales falling from customers' eyes when they come to us and they realize that actually we can now take in data from wind speed detectors, for example, or air quality sampling devices. Again, third-party devices. We are that software layer, but through various different protocols, we're able to take this data in and turn that into meaningful, actionable, and intelligently automated responses to situations. So yeah, my bets for 2025 are AI or IA and IoT. They're going to be massive in 2025.
Yeah, I totally agree, Guy. There's some really great points in there. Before we wrap this episode up today, it would be good to leave our listeners with one final thought. So, for anyone listening, what's the single most important takeaway from this year's State of Physical Security report?
For me, I think it's the legacy systems, James, because without understanding that, without tackling that challenge, then everything falls by the wayside. Cyber is, of course, of paramount importance, but you can't have cyber resilience with an outdated legacy system. So we're urging partners, customers to think about change. Change is a huge mindset shift for a number of people. We're moving from A to B. And particularly when you're looking at legacy systems, the initial perception is that's going to cost me a lot of money. Well, let's have that conversation because we try to help individuals, companies, organizations understand that it isn't necessarily cost related, but it could be cost saving. And at the minute, these systems are preventing you from innovating. They're preventing you from scaling up your systems. Cyber resilience as well, because don't forget, we're not dealing with CCTV cameras anymore. They're not cameras you're putting on your network, they are computers. And if you've got an estate that has thousands of cameras on it, that's thousands of cameras on your network. And if you've got an outdated, antiquated system, you're going to have some challenges. So yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway from the report, and you will have your own, but personally speaking, from what I'm seeing in the discussions I'm having with my partners and end users, is beware of legacy infrastructure.
And that's all for today's episode. Thanks so much for joining me, Guy.
Thank you, James. It's been a pleasure, but what I can tell you is the report is now live and available for you to download. Please search for Genetec State of Physical Security Report in your search engine of choice.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to today's SJUK Leaders in Security podcast. I've been your host, James Humphreys. Make sure to keep an eye out for our next episode coming soon.